Welcome to the Electric Blue podcast. My name's Heletta. If you're here from the Substack, welcome. If you're totally new, it's great to have you. The ethos of Electric Blue is to transport you into new ways of looking at the world. So this podcast will be an ever-evolving superhighway of conversations, sonic excursions, and poetic observations. For the first episode, I've invited my close friend Jordan Santos to tell us about her journey in creating Scene Library. Scene Library is a community for readers to connect in person and immerse in meaningful and inclusive storytelling. Her signature events are the book exchanges and pop-ups where Jordan and her family wrap books in beautiful cream paper and adorn each with a library card of clues that state the most potent attributes and quotes of each book. It's an opportunity for readers to genuinely engage with the heart of a book without knowing its cover or title. I've seen how Jordan has grown this idea from a tiny seed into the way it's been blooming now, and I've been so in awe of how purposeful she's been through this whole process, and how I've watched it so deeply affect so many people. I really wanted to showcase through this conversation how sometimes when you have a dream for something, you might not know what the end result might look like, but it's just important you keep going, and you keep following that spark, and eventually, the answer is revealed to you. Jordan is someone who truly followed that spark. And in our conversation, we talk about how her career as a social media consultant and influencer led her to finding her truest passion in Scene Library. Well, hello, Jordan. Thanks for joining me on the first Electric Blue podcast. Okay, so I'm curious how you like to introduce yourself now.
God, I honestly don't know. I feel like career-wise, just in
That's what I'm wondering.
general,
Like, how do you like to how do you want people to know you?
I feel like I try to lead with I don't know, founder is like a weird word, but I feel like I do it really long-winded because I don't want to say I don't like labels, but I feel uncomfortable with them. So I always say oh, I started this book thing called Scene Library, and then everyone's really confused. And then I say oh, I've been working in social media for over 10 years, doing behind the scenes, social media consulting and strategy. And I also, shoot campaigns for my clients. So it's really long-winded, and because I feel really weird saying that I'm a founder or I run my own freelance business, or I don't know.
No, it's good to I like because I don't see you as all of those things. Like I see you as my friend and as someone who is so I don't know, just in tune with yourself and the things that you love. Like I forget how you exist to the world.
Right. No,
You know what I mean? Like I
same.
forget oh my God, yeah, you are this and this, but I'm like, oh, I forget that.
No, I forget that I have a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I know that's what people mean when they ask me, who are you? What do you do?
Which is always so interesting. 'Cause
Yeah.
it's well, it's more than that. But I guess where I kind of want to get started is I guess in a way it is about your job, but not so much the job side of things. How you were kind of a part of the first wave of social media as a business and influencers working at agencies and you becoming an influencer yourself, but you work on both sides. You do social media managing, but you also have your own platform and your own fan base, I guess, and brand. But I want to go back to where that started for you. What did you like about social media? Did you feel like you could express yourself really easily on it?
Yeah, it's weird. I never, I went to school for public relations. I was a business major and I couldn't do accounting. So I switched to public relations, which didn't have the accounting requirement. So I went into PR, and I always thought I'd work for a fashion PR agency. So, just pitching and doing polls for clients or for press and that kind of thing. So I always kind of saw myself going into fashion PR. All my internships in college were to do with PR specifically. And, but just like as a backstory, growing up, I always loved social media. Like, I'm like, do I even like say, I'm afraid like someone will like dig up my old like platforms. But like, I had like an Xanga. I had, what else? Like, I was so into Tumblr. I loved Twitter. I kind of ate up like every big social media platform that there was, like Blogspot. Like, I loved it all. So, just like having that as a background, just like having that in the background. But when I graduated from college, this guy that I used to intern for, he actually started a new agency and I didn't have a job. So I took a meeting with him and he was like telling me that it's like an influencer marketing agency, which that wasn't a thing back then. And he was explaining to me, like, if a brand like Levi's, for example, wants to work with, and he used the term bloggers back then because that's what like I was into and that's what like was more normal. But like it was like all bloggers and Viners and YouTubers. So those were like the influencers back in 2013, I think. Yeah, 2013. And he was like, I saw like during your internship, you have like a really good eye of like taste and you're very like in tune with like that world. Would you want to like come in and basically build these campaigns where you're choosing the right quote unquote influencers for these types of campaigns? And like, so that was like my first job. And yeah, I guess like that was like my start in social media. And from there, I started working on the brand side of things, like, doing shoots, reaching out to influencers on behalf of a brand, um, creating content, doing strategy, all of that kind of thing. And I guess like alongside this career journey, I was also gaining a following on my personal account, but that kind of was like by accident, just from working in the industry. And I think like back in 2013 to 2015, everyone was like so rabid for Instagram and everyone was tagging each other. I was like taking influencers out to like lunches and dinners and going to parties with them. So I think like people were just like interested in who these people hung out with. They were tagging me, and then like at a certain point I was like, oh, maybe I should like be more intentional with like what I share.
I mean, I love that it happened so organically. But also, I'm wondering when you did start realizing, like, oh, I have an audience of my own, was it easy for you to understand what you wanted to share?
I think what was like natural was obviously not, maybe not obvious, but like clothes or what I was wearing. But I think also just what I was doing, where I was vacationing, where I was eating in LA, like just like that kind of thing. But I also think I knew early on, like for me, it was important to like talk about some things that mattered to me because like in 2012, I was a passenger in a drunk driving crash. I broke my neck in two places. And like, I feel like that ties to, I guess, like just knowing the importance of a platform, even if it's small, because even back then when I was going through that and I was sitting at home in a halo brace, like I shared my story on Facebook just because I went to a really small private school and there was like weirdly rumors going around because people had nothing better to do. And so I think I just like kind of wanted to like clear the air a bit. Like people were like wondering what happened. I shared my piece and like just with that shared like the dangers of drunk driving and how like serious of an issue it is. And like that's like kind of when I saw like I was getting like messages from friends, but also complete strangers like telling me, thank you for telling the story. I've had a friend who passed in a drunk driving crash, or I used to drink and drive all the time and now I see how scary it is. So like even like from, I don't know, my Facebook with like 300 followers, like I saw that there was an impact in sharing, kind of like maybe the personal stuff or like the stuff that like mattered to me. So I knew that that was something I always wanted to like share, even though maybe I didn't know how I was going to do that, or maybe even what topics I wanted to share. Because really, like, I think, I don't know, I guess like the most non-shallow thing I shared on Instagram was my advocacy for anti-drunk driving causes.
what I always thought was so kind of magical about you, honestly, is, people would always come up to you thinking you're like a social media guru and being like, what do you do? Like, how do you build an audience? And like, how do you get more followers? And how do you take your pictures like this? And blah, blah, blah. But, your advice to everyone would always be, find what you like and like, what's your point of view and what do you actually want? Like, don't think about what's going to get me followers. Like, what actually makes you happy? What's your end goal? Who are you? Like, you always ask people, like, what's your goal with this? Like, do you want to be an influencer? I feel like a lot of people come up to you and they don't understand what they want to be. They just want to be liked, and they think social media will kind of be a way to do that. But I'm just curious, like, how did you stay grounded? Like, how do you not let the numbers get to you? I feel like I've never really seen it get to you in a way where you start changing your behavior for it.
Yeah, I would say like the numbers, like follower wise, never really, because I never set out to be like a quote unquote influencer because I always worked for influencers. So to me, it was like that, like social media is my job. And I felt like the follower thing happened just like naturally and organically. And I'm like, oh, cool. Like, but it wasn't ever something that I saw myself going into like as a job necessarily, or like, because I was always a social media manager. I was always a social media consultant first and foremost. So that, I think that the numbers thing didn't really appeal to me. And I feel like I had a full-time job. So I didn't want to think of my Instagram as my job, if that makes sense. But I will say, like, I mean, thank you for your kind words and the impression I gave you. But like, I think what the numbers that did impact me were the money and the income coming in from said partnership. So like, I feel like there was a time actually, I don't know, maybe I would say like 2018, 2019, like around there, where I was really focused on, I guess not focused, but like my mind did shift and I felt like I had to post a certain thing to keep getting brand partners. So I wasn't really appealing to like the followers. I was like almost like appealing to like the potential business because again, like I think that was like my priority was like work and girl bossing, and it wasn't so much like that. I don't want to say notoriety, or like I didn't really care about that being known. Like I don't think I cared about that, but I was like, oh, it's an easy way to make income. And then I saw myself like just like posting like, I don't know, like skincare videos and things like that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I think personally, like I actually hate doing skincare. I actually don't like doing makeup. Like, so I'm like looking at my Instagram, I'm like, I don't even like, I wear makeup, right? But like, I don't care enough. Like, why am I sharing this? And it wasn't like in a way that it was like natural for me. Like, I felt like it was like, oh, I almost like had to kind of like fit myself into this like person who shares makeup and skincare in that way. Like, I think I do it now sometimes, but like, I don't know, maybe it wasn't as like formulaic, but that's like kind of, I think when I had a turn, I just like remember really being resentful towards like social media, and I didn't like it anymore because like you talked about like a few minutes ago, just what was my relationship with social media. Like I always loved it. So like it was always something so fun to me, and then it became not fun. And then I really like, I had to sit with myself, and I almost like gave myself like the treatment that I would like ask a friend or a client, like, what do you want to share? What matters to you? And I had to like write them down. I'm like, I actually like read a lot, but I never show like what books I'm reading or that I'm even reading at all. Like, what if I like just inserted like what I'm reading just like every so often, so that because like that's like something I feel passionately about. That's what I'm talking about with my friends, or I don't know, like things like that. Like maybe where I'm like I traveled a lot, so that was like something I was really passionate about, like showing like the spots that I would go to and the hotels I would stay at and the beaches I'd find and things like that. So I had to like write down like what is it that that actually interested me, and it wasn't so much like the beauty or skincare products, but you know, like maybe the books I was reading, the places I was traveling to, you know, maybe the causes that I cared about also.
I mean, something very special happened in 2020, but before that, you know, you were, well, also between us, like we both went to college together, but we kind of had like similar friend circles, but we never really like had our moment to like click and become friends, like truly. But, you know, you started hosting these blind date with a book exchanges, like with your like close friends, and then you invited me to go to one of them. And I guess I want to talk about, why did you start hosting those? Because I know you love reading, but like when did the first idea come to you?
Which one, like what year did you go to the first one?
I think it was 2019.
Okay. Oh, that was your first
Right?
one?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, fun. Well, I guess so. I actually started doing these blind dates with a book back in like 2015 or 2016.
Whoa.
Yeah, but it was like something I was like almost kind of embarrassed about and I was like shy about. Like I had seen like the idea of blind date with a book on Tumblr at some like, you know, random small bookshop or something. And I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. I want to get my friends together and like we meet up at a park and maybe we bring our favorite book and that's like how we like discover a new book that we might like. But I didn't know anyone that would ever be interested in something like that. So literally it was me. I think the first one was me, my two cousins, which like I made them, they were happy to do it, but you know, like I think they were doing me a favor, and probably like one or two girlfriends. And I think like maybe the first one was like at a Malibu winery or
Wow.
like a like something outdoorsy and cute, and we like wrapped our books and it was not like this, it was cute for the time, but it wasn't like what it is now, but it was like, you know, old Trader Joe's grocery bags, thick Sharpie, like clues scribbled out on top, and there was no like rhyme or reason. And so we like brought our favorite books, and I just like remember like, oh, I hope this person's not like listening, but one friend brought The Great Gatsby and I was like so disappointed. Like it, and I was like, no, like see that's not what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to really like bring books like we really love. And maybe she did like The Great Gatsby, but I'm like, we all read that in high school if that was part of your curriculum. So I think like I kind of realized like, oh, I can't just invite any friend and like bless her, like she's not a big reader. Maybe she is now, but she wasn't. So I kind of like forced her to do this. So like it's not her fault, but I think I was like, okay, I actually have to probably get people involved who are actually interested in reading, or whose like book tastes I like. So I think it kind of evolved. Like I realized like maybe I can't just always have like my best friends, because if they're not into books, they're not into books. And then I started like just like reaching out to like, you know, friends of friends or acquaintances and who I knew that were like kind of like more into reading. And so I did that. And then I did them in 2015, 2016. I think in 2019 is like when I like, I don't know why that was like the one you went to. It was like a group of like 12 women, I think. And that one was like really fun. And I didn't know everyone. I think maybe like my friend Michaela, she hosted it at her place and she maybe like was in charge of half the guest list and I was in charge of half the guest list. But I think like that's when I realized like, oh, like there's something magical about bringing people together who may not necessarily know each other. And if we can use books as like the commonality, that kind of gives us a beautiful foundation to like get to know each other more. And it's not like as intimidating than just like meeting someone for the first time and having to make small talk.
Wow, yeah. No, because I mean, that was a very life-changing moment for me. I tell you this all the time. But I mean, I was in my like mid-20s at that point, and I don't feel like I had any representations of like women in my life who were like deep and nuanced and like embodied being a woman. I feel like I was just around many people who were very girl and very, I mean, being girls, it's not even a bad thing. It was just like, you know, as you're in your 20s, you're trying to think of like, what does being a woman look like? What does that feel like? Like what kind of thoughts should I have? And I just feel like I was seeing such a representation of such like rich, nuanced, complex, interesting women. And I was just like, my mind was blown. But it's true, like having the books there and like the clues that you write for each book, it it just allows like a deeper kind of connection to be had. You just automatically become more vulnerable and allow people into like a side of you that honestly is like a side of you that maybe only you engage with, because you know when you're reading it's a solitary activity, but like this is kind of like bringing a solitary feeling like with other people, like you share it.
Yeah, I think like with the books, like, with the book exchanges, like we obviously like shared a book that really meant something to us. I think by then, by 2019 too, I had I didn't have like themes necessarily, but like I think there was a direction that we needed to go in. So I think maybe like 2019, this might not be the exact quote unquote theme, but I think it might have been like bring a book that really impacted you this year. So I realized like we needed guardrails like for these types of book gatherings, because otherwise, like, yeah, you might get like a really shitty beach read, or you might get The Great Gatsby. And so I think putting a question or like a requirement of like how we should think about the books we're bringing kind of like made it a little bit more specific. And then with that, I think that helped inform people in how they described their book, why it impacted them. And then I think, when we're then choosing the books for ourselves, we're picking a book based on like what someone else was feeling, and that in itself like reveals this commonality that you have with them. And then all of a sudden you have something rich to talk about, because of just like a book that you shared and the reason why you shared that book.
Oh, that's so gorgeous. I love that. Um, so now let's go to 2020. The world experiences many intense changes. We all experience a lot of internal changes of like how we want to move through the world, how we want to use our platforms, like what's important to us, like how do we want to rearrange society given that like we have a say. I feel like that was the year that I feel like myself and all the people around me were like, oh, we don't really like the way things are. And we can actually change it, because watching everything stop was like, oh, these things can stop. Like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, what way do we want to make it? But I want to talk about how, so you were doing these book givings and they were private with your friends or like friends of friends, but we started talking more, and you started a little like account called Scene, right? Was it called Scene or
Yeah, I'm like kind of embarrassed to like talk about it now. I don't know why, because I feel like and I guess like maybe this is like just like the process, right? Like I guess like this is just what it is. But I had started an account. I can't believe you're making me go here.
it just popped
No,
in my
I
head. I'm
forgot
like, oh
about
my
it.
God,
I
wait.
sometimes forget about it. But I started an account. I think I started it like I started it in 2020, but I might have started it before, like, obviously like the racial reckoning that we
Yeah.
all were faced with. But slightly before. I'm not saying like that it was forward thinking by any means, but I think I myself was like, just also working in social media, I think I myself was craving some sort of representation. And I think now, like fast forward to 2025, we have that in a very shallow way, which is why I think I'm like kind of embarrassed to talk about this like little Instagram that I made, because I see now like how almost shallow it was. Like, but for the time, I think it's like what I needed. But basically, it was a mood board of like just women of color, really. And because I felt like if I was on Pinterest or on my Instagram explore page, I was just seeing thin white women. And also in the campaigns I worked on, right? Like the social media the brands that I was consulting for on social media, like all of the photo shoots were with thin white women. And like as someone who is not that, I think I did feel like some sort of dissatisfaction with like this industry that I was working in. So I think that was like my attempt to see more representation, at least on my own feed. Um, but yeah, I think like I I think maybe like after I don't even know how long I had that. Um, but I think like I soon realized that it was like pretty surface level, I would say. And then I started trying to do like these journals, and you were my first person I
Oh
interviewed, but
yeah.
yours was really fantastic as
So,
always. I think I was like kind of craving more dialogue, or like I wanted to know what other people were thinking about the state of representation and inclusion at that time. So I was like doing these journals and interviews, and I think like sometimes I was satisfied, like with your interview, I was really satisfied. I'm not just saying that because you're sitting in front of me. Like I remember like feeling really impacted by like all the things you said. And I felt like we were able to like go deep and have like this like beautiful conversation and insight about you that I didn't know. But then I don't know, I think I realized like maybe just because someone is a person of color doesn't mean that we can have these rich conversations. And I don't know. I think I just like felt like I hit a wall and I didn't really know where that was going. So I like ended that, and then I think I had like another idea on my mind which like I didn't really know what to do with, and I remember like talking to you about it for the first time. Yeah.
it's so wild to go back and talk about this. Like, because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe the idea was really kind of far out there. Like it was kind of what was the first idea? You were like, I want to have a
Yeah,
like
so it's weird because like I don't even know if like that mood board that I like made in that journal is necessarily, I think it is somewhat connected. I think like there's like a foundation that connects them, but I think at the time they almost had no connection because so I was like kind of, I don't really know like if it overlapped at all. I think I was like kind of done with that. I was like, and I think like almost we were seeing more quote unquote representation in like campaign shoots and on TV. And like, so I was like, okay, actually, like maybe it's fine in a way, like not fine, obviously, but like I almost felt like
yeah.
my little mood board was like not necessary. And I was craving, I think like just like something to note, I guess, is that I think there has always been something missing in my career or like my journey with social media. Like I had spent so much time working in the social media industry, both on the brand side, but also on my personal side. And I felt like so much of my time was sucked into this, this little world of social media that I always was craving something else. And so I think that is where like that mood board began. And I think that is where like the initial inklings of Scene Library began. I was always craving something else. Um, I forgot what the question was.
Well, how did we like what because I remember I feel like we were having conversations of you were like, I want to do something with reading, or like how
Yes,
did it
okay.
like
Yeah, I think like just like everyone was, right? In 2020, everyone was reading more. I was reading more. And I don't really know. I honestly like I'm not sure because I mean, I'll be like, I guess like candid. Like I remember coming to you with like, I want to, like I have this idea, and it was like a physical bookstore. But I actually like now that I'm like saying it, like I don't know why I would even jump to that. Like I don't even know what that does. You know what? I think I know. Okay, I think it's because we were so cooped up at home.
oh yeah.
Maybe we were buying books online, and like there was no physical interactive aspect to that, and I think maybe that's what I craved. I'm like trying to think of like why that idea would come. I probably have some journals of like this initial idea, but I think that's what it was. I think we were, with lockdown, I was reading a lot. I was obviously very interested and passionate about reading books again. And I think what was missing was that physical aspect of that experience.
And books that are representative of all types of people and all types of stories. Like I think it was like actually having a place that represents these like overlooked
Right.
viewpoints.
Totally, totally. And I think that's where like that like I guess like that baseline foundation that I guess connects like that random mood board and what this is now. But I think like it was that need or that desire to see books or have books that represented, you know, my background and the background of my friends and the topics that we were interested in. And yeah, I did want a place where that's what the spotlight was on. And I remember like having ideas of like having like a bookshelf curated by Haletta and like, you know, like having my friends be involved. And I do remember having it, like wanting it to be a space that people can also read in. Like, I don't know, like it was such an outlandish idea. Like, I don't think I had any concept of like how much a space would rent and what, like, yeah.
No, but you know, I think it's so important to like go and look at that moment though, because I remember you talking about this and I remember being on FaceTime and you were so excited and it was so pure and I felt so excited to even hear about the idea. And like hearing about the idea, I'm not a very, especially back then, I'm not a very like logical, practical person. You know, if someone tells me like their dream or what they want, I'm not thinking of, okay, well, what are like the ways that it's going to get done? I want to hear about what you want. Like, let's talk about what you want and like, let's just dream it. Like, together, let's like dream it together, you know? There were conversations being had of like, Jordan, how do you actually do this? You know, people were like, okay, but it's a lot of money to have a space and like, who's going to work there and how are you going to stock it and blah, blah. And people were telling you all these very logical, practical questions. But what I thought was really amazing is that you had a really pure desire and you told people about it. And I am not a super practical, logical person. I'm interested in like what makes people excited in their lives and in the future and what they want to give to the world. And I was really excited for you because it felt like you had something really pure that could touch a lot of people. But I was like, I don't know how it's going to work. But there's something, I feel really good when you're telling me about this. So I think that was just such an interesting time because I don't feel like a lot of people got it. Like, even though you didn't necessarily know what it was, I didn't really know what it was, but it was like, no, there's something special here. But I just want to talk about like, you know, what was that journey like of like having this kind of idea that you don't even really know what it is, but you like have a desire, you know, you want to like give something to the world, but you don't exactly know the mode and how you're going to do it. Like, what were those moments from having the idea of a physical space and then turning around and being like, okay, well, it's not going to be a physical space. Why don't I try something else? Like, how was it being in kind of the dark for that moment?
I don't, it's so like, I feel like it was just like almost like a silly idea that I had that I think I took it like kind of seriously, but not. So I think in that sense, it was pretty malleable. Like, so I remember us, like, we had like a three-way, we had a phone call three-way, and our friend was like, yeah, like kind of like shooting the idea down, which I'm grateful for. But like, I think that's, well, one, okay, so I learned two things, I think. One, not everything is for everyone. And I think I realized, like, okay, some people won't give a fuck about this idea, and that's okay. Like, they're not interested, and I'm not going to take offense to that because it's just not something that, you know, they're specifically interested in, and that's fine. And I think too, I think I realized like, oh yeah, like that's true. Like that is a lot of work. And I don't think I necessarily, and I think that's why I was like so open to like scratching that idea out because I knew, so basically like we haven't even really like touched on this, but like this like yearning to start this book thing, whatever, we didn't even have a name for it yet. This yearning stemmed from me being so dissatisfied with work because social media really was like all that I was doing. Like it almost was my, it was my job and my hobby. And I felt such a dissatisfaction with it that I was searching for something else. And I think I think I realized, like, when our friend was telling us that, like, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to pay for it? How are you going to stock it? Blah, 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 blah. Like, that felt really overwhelming to me. I remember feeling overwhelmed, but in a good way, in that, like, I don't want to do that. Like, I don't want a second job. So I think I had to, like, kind of go back to the drawing board and ask myself, like, what is it that I want? And I don't think it's that I wanted to be a bookstore owner. Like, although that sounds like, like very idyllic, and I would love to be one. And if, the finances allowed, like, it sounds really cute, but like realistically, like, I don't think that's like what I actually wanted to be. And I think I had to, like, sit with myself and think about, like, where did this idea come from? What actually was I yearning for? And I think what I was yearning for was a way to connect with people over books. And I think that's when I realized, oh, I had been doing that since 2015, 2016, 2019 with my friends. And okay, like, if that's what I'm missing, and especially this was like, post lockdown, all of us, I mean, I guess not all of us, but like, I personally was craving in person, face to face time with people. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to make new friends. Like many of us in 2020, I was dissatisfied with a lot of my friends, and I think I thought books were a beautiful way to create new friendships with, like, this baseline value system that we might share. So I was like, okay, maybe I need to chill out on, like, the bookstore idea, which is kind of really outlandish. And, like, maybe I just, like, need to start from the bottom. And maybe what I actually want is to just simply connect with people again. And that's when I actually, like, I brought back those book exchanges with our friends. And so in, 2021, I think I started bringing them back, and I was more intentional with it. I was more intentional with who I brought together. I was intentional about the themes of the books that we were bringing. And then, yeah, so I think, like, and then I turned, like, that little mood board account into Scene Library. And Haletta, you were actually, like, the only person I think I discussed names with, but I think we discussed names to name the bookstore almost. And I think you liked Scene Library the best, and you're like, I actually feel like it encompasses everything that you want from it. And so I changed the mood board account to Scene Library, and then I was like, you know what? I'll put my little book exchanges in this account so that it lives somewhere, and it could be like a cute space for that. And so, like, that mood board became almost like a book/reading book mood board, but also a place where I can share these, like, book exchanges I was doing with my friends.
I just remembered Scene Journal. That's what it was before, right? When it was the interviews
Yeah,
with
yeah,
people, and then it was like Scene Library for the physical space.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy. So now, well, okay, circling also back to you reassessing how you can take the essence of what you wanted with the physical space and but do it in, like, a more practical way. I remember this quote that you told me, and I don't know if you heard it from somewhere or it was just something that you were just embodying at the time, but you said, like, do what you can with what you have. And that phrase like blew open my mind at that point, because I feel like I was doing everything that I wanted was with what I didn't have. Like, I was just like, oh, I think I need this and I need this and I need this, but, like, I feel like you really embody that also just in your own life of, like, do what you can with what you have, with, like, the people that you know, with the resources you have, with even, like, your own intel, what natural gifts that you have, like, do what you can with those things. And I feel like Scene Library and the way it's grown so naturally and intuitively and so rapidly, honestly, is because that's what you did. You, like, sunk into all the things you're so good at, all the things you want to see in the world, all the things you love, and you created something like this kind of rich ecosystem that's like growing. So I guess now to go back to the journey of it, when was the first public book exchange or book pop-up? Because you also host book pop-ups.
Yeah. So it's so interesting because I think with Scene Library, I think like maybe when someone sees it now, they feel like what it is now is always what I had in mind. But it just like it really was going like I really thought it was just going to be book exchanges with my girlfriends at parks. Like I really thought that's like what it was going to be, and if like that's what it was 5 years from now, like cute. Like I was happy with that. Um, but I will say, like, I never imagined that it would become like a public facing thing or for other people to enjoy because I couldn't imagine that anyone else would be interested in it. Like I thought my friends did it like because it was like something I was inviting them to. I didn't imagine that complete strangers would have any interest in something like this. Like I thought we were getting together because we wanted to spend time with one another or we wanted to meet each other's friends over books, yes, but like I didn't think that there was something in it for other people. Um, so I feel like I can't take credit for taking it public because I would say it was like the people that believed in Scene Library from the outside who are not a part of these book exchanges that saw something in it and wanted to almost support it. So like my friend, she worked at the clothing brand Vince. She still works there, but like for Women's Month, I remember she approached me and she was like, "What about doing something like what about doing a book exchange for Women's Month?" And I was like, "What are you talking?" Like I literally like didn't understand. I was like, "What are you talking about?" And so she actually had the idea like, "Why don't you invite like 6 friends? Vince will pay for it. We'll give you the funds to get pastries and drinks and we'll dress you in Vince." And like, so I was like, like it wasn't about like the brand partnership of it all, although I do love Vince. Like, it was more like, oh, someone from the outside is interested in this enough to share it with their audience. I'm really confused. So I did that. And then afterwards, this small women owned business called Space of Time reached out and they were like, we love what you're doing. Um, would you be interested in curating 20 books that we can sell on our site? And I was like, who is going to buy that? Like, I really was concerned no one was going to buy that. And I think because I know what kinds of books I'm interested in, I can't and I hate surprises, like genuinely, like I don't like the unknown. So I'm like, why would anyone buy a book that they don't know what's inside? I like really didn't get it, but I was like, sure, like, like sounds good. And, and obviously I was happy to do that because, over the years I had accumulated a bunch of books that I really believed in and that I wanted people to read. So I'm like, you know what, like, if it means that people are going to read this like book that I loved, great. So I curated a set of books for them. And then at the same time, they said, would you be open to hosting, like kind of like what Vince did, would you be open to hosting like a book exchange like for our community? And I was like, sure, that's fine. That was something I was used to. But then they approached a venue called Tea at Shiloh, which is a tea house in downtown LA. And they wanted to have it there, which is like a really beautiful, cozy, intimate tea house. And they were saying that all of their events were open to the public. So if we were to do an event there, it would need to go through like basically like their workshop process and everyone is able to buy a ticket. And I was like, okay, well, no one's going to buy a ticket. But I was open to it because at that point I had like maybe like, a few DMs here and there, like, how can I join these book exchanges? So I kind of knew like people were interested, but I just didn't know how many people would be interested. The tickets sold out. And then the book giving happened. And then we called it book giving because for these, people didn't have to bring their own books. I was curating the books and they would get to take a book home. Um, so I started those, and I think that's when I just like saw how like it could be for complete strangers to come together, and it was almost more impactful for strangers to come together because I think there's like something to just being in a room with people who don't know you and you're able to say whatever you want, and no one has like a preconceived outlook or judgment of you. And so I think people felt really comfortable and safe and sharing things about themselves. And like I remember that first book exchange, there were tears. I had accidentally, and I don't know about accidentally, but I remember like as we were going in a circle sharing which part of the clue really resonated with us. And like I don't know, I as a back just like as a note for those who don't know how these works, how Scene Library works, the books are all wrapped. I write clues about the book and include a quote so that people are able to choose a book based on what really resonates with them and what speaks to them versus like if it's trending on TikTok or on New York Times bestseller list or whatever. But anyway, I unknowingly had curated 5 books. And so we were going around in the circle explaining which part of the clue resonated. And there were 5 different people who said they picked up this book because of the strained mother daughter relationships as the theme. And I was like, holy fuck. One, I just exposed myself to like a room of 20 strangers, but two, like, wow, like I had no idea that so many people were kind of experiencing the same thing, like this yearning to be close to their mom or like not being able to be understood by their parents or what have you. Like, so it was interesting to see like the themes, like the mini themes that came out of like those like sharing circles, I guess, and like the commonalities that we have with one another. And I think also just seeing like how people, like how books really chose like the person almost. Like I remember at that first book exchange as well, someone picked up a book about like the undocumented immigrant experience, and it turns out that she was, you know, very involved with abolishing like ICE and that movement. So it was so interesting that people were able to really pick up a book on something that they truly, truly like resonated with or something they truly believed in because of the clues rather than like, I don't know, I guess any other outside influence.
Wow. Wow. There's so much that I want to say from that, but like, I think it goes, I think it goes into there are not many experiences we can have in life where we connect to people in these ways that are not people that are already close to you. Even the people that are already close to you, it's kind of rare to have these things happen. So to like kind of create a room and an experience where people are invited to and can, I don't know, and can connect with people in like such a deep and profound way. And even you having an experience, like you writing the clues is also like being vulnerable, you know? Like that also shows who you are, like what you're drawn to. It just kind of reminds me that these like things about ourselves that are like so nestled and so deep and sometimes so painful are actually really what so many of us are experiencing. Like we just don't have the kind of the ability to easily and openly share it. I don't know. I just feel like because I've been to a few of the book givings now, and it's always so. Well, first of all, they're always different. It always is different depending on who's there. You know, it's never like a repeat experience. But what is always stagnant or like what always is static is that like people are eager to open up. Like people want to. Like people want to have the ability to like pour themselves open. Like and I think this also connects even to the the pop-ups you have where you have the books for sale where it's like where it's public and people can come and they can choose whatever book they're drawn to. but it's not like the book giving where people talk about why they selected the book. You still feel that in the air of like people engaging with something, I don't know, it's like I feel like people want to be known by like the insides of themselves and like want to connect with people in that way. Which this isn't even really a question, but it's kind of like a phenomenon that I noticed, like at the last one that you had. Well, I mean, I guess to also catch everyone up, over the years now, you've done multiple book givings. You have a lot of pop-ups, and it's really quite popular now. And people, you have like repeat people that come, and they've become friends, and we'll get into that too. But I'm saying this to be like, I think something is happening where we're like marketing books wrong, and like we're actually kind of getting who we are as people wrong. Like I don't know if that like makes sense, where it's like people think like, oh, like we're all obsessed with social media and we're all like disconnected, and we just scroll, and we all doom everything. I don't know. There's not a lot of hope in people, let's just say. But like I go to these things and I see like people desire to be more. I don't know. There's something where like kind of like you're giving the books a chance to be known, a chance to be seen in a way that they cannot be seen by just a cover. Like you cannot possibly understand the experience you're going to have with a book by just looking at the cover or reading a quote by someone saying like, oh, this book is really good. By using the clues, it's like you can engage with like the electricity, like the magic of a book. Like you get to be like, that can hook you to it. I just said a bunch of stuff.
No. There's like so much, but I think that's like kind of what I've noticed with like Scene Libraries. Like I think that's like something we're all craving. Like I think it goes back to like, my little inkling of like wanting to start this like representation mood board. I think at our core, like we want to be seen and we want to be understood. And I think these books allow people to feel that way and to express themselves once they feel that way, and they can explain why they feel that way. And going back to what you said about like we're marketing books wrong, like I actually think, okay, like because there's been such a resurgence with books lately, which is a welcome, happy thing. So I think some books, specific books, are marketed quite well. Like just look at the fervor behind books like I don't even know what, like the Court of Thorns and Roses. Do you know like those like fantasy romance books and books by Colleen Hoover and Emily Henry? And I haven't read any of them. I've read one Emily Henry book, and sorry, I felt like it was completely mid, to be honest. But they're just marketed so well, and they become New York bestseller hits like on the get, and it feels like everyone's read these books. And I guess like what I'm saying is books are being marketed, but I don't feel like maybe they're, at least for me, they're not the books that I necessarily am interested in. And so I think with Scene Library, I'm not like as interested in promoting the books that already are getting so much attention and that tend to go viral on TikTok. And maybe some of the books are already popular that I share, but I think at the core of the books that there's something a bit more or a bit deeper. And I think these books, like, at least for me, like, I feel like I want to include them in the book exchanges, or I want to include them in these pop-ups in a way that it has a shroud of mystery and it has these clues, because I think some of the books that I tend to share may turn people off because, maybe on the outside, and what it is like maybe it's about a multi-generational family, or it's set in a war-torn country, which doesn't sound fun and light and sexy, and they're not. But I think when we pull out the themes from these books, whether it's like a yearning for belonging or a desire to break away from societal or familial expectations, I think that's what pulls people in. And I think that's what's important to me is showing people how much we have in common with stories like these that we may think have nothing to do with us.
Very well said. And yeah, you're right. Yeah, those books are well marketed. Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't engage with those kind of books.
I
That's
don't
not really my
either.
vibe. Do you think with what you're doing, it's helping? I feel like it's gonna signal something to the publishing industry. Like I actually feel like they're gonna start knocking on your door. I feel like that's gonna
I
happen.
mean, I would love free books.
Yeah.
I would
Wow.
love free books to
Yeah.
share with people. So, I mean, that would be amazing. But yeah, I mean, I do think like, I think just like going back to like this 2020 discussions of like diversity and inclusion, and it's so important. But it's like, I do think like maybe some of these publishing houses, like they're publishing these books and they're promoting them, but to what extent or to what level? And, but I also think maybe the content of the books aren't mass. And I think that's what is unfortunate because I think the themes in these books should be mass. Does that make sense? Like,
Totally.
I don't know. Like, I like the books are obviously there, they're published. I mean, relatively, right? Because like I don't know what the statistic is, but I like read a New York Times article like years ago about like who works in publishing, and obviously it's like a crazy percentage is like old white people, but I digress. Like, the books are there and it's like, how can I get them more into the hands of people and how can I make them more interesting, I guess, to someone who wouldn't otherwise pick up that book? And how can we have discussions around that? And not in a like book club way, because that actually like that format is really intimidating to me. Like, what are the symbols and what are the what are the underlying themes and the ongoing themes of this book, and what about the characters' growth? Like, I actually don't know if I can speak to that in a really intelligent way, and like that's why I don't really engage with book clubs, and because I don't know how to talk about books in that way. But I can talk about how a book made me feel. I can talk about how I saw myself in a book. I can talk about how I didn't know that in this culture that they celebrate things this way, or that in this country there's this societal expectation to do this. Like, and that's what interests me.
Oh, so gorgeous. So beautiful. I mean, because that's what it comes down to, like the way something makes you feel. I think that's also what, I don't know, like this is just like a example. Like I remember reading, I love music and I used to love reading music reviews, but I'm so disinterested in a music review that is about telling me about the instruments or like the meaning of the songwriting. Like I hate when I find out what the meaning of a song is, because then I don't have my meaning of the song. Like I had my own meaning for the song, and I would rather like read a piece about what someone felt. I remember there was like this one review for Lord's Melodrama like years ago, and it was about this girl, and she was just writing about like this intense breakup that she had, and she was going through each track of the album but relating it to like memories that she had. It was so potent, and now every time I still listen to Melodrama, I still think about
I
that.
love that so much.
Like
Like, I actually, like, I feel like I don't get engaged in music that way, but maybe I would if it were presented in that way.
literally,
Yeah.
think of all the things if we just said how we feel. But I think it's beautiful, and I think it's so genius, because it's like why, because it's also like, why are we getting in the way of, I feel like things like talking about the other things get in the way. I don't know. I mean, other people like to do it, but
And I think that's what it is. Like, I think that's what's important to know. Like, other people like to do it and they're more than welcome to do that, and they have an audience for that. And I think, like, for me, people are like, oh, is this a book club? And it's like, it's not. Like, and I get the appeal of a book club and discussing a book, and like I think some people's brains work in that way and they need that, and they want to have like almost like, I don't know, it almost like feels like scholarly or academic to have like assignments, like, okay, you read these chapters this day and then we'll discuss this part of the story. I I think that's cool, but like I can't I'm not I don't feel comfortable or like that confident in doing that. But I think there are some people, and I've had like friends and even family like talk to me about like books, and they're like, like I don't know if like scene library is something I'd be into. Like honestly, like the world of books and reading intimidate me. I'm like, no, but like I understand if like maybe sharing your feelings is intimidating, then maybe scene library is not for you. But that's what scene library is for those people who are intimidated by books, or like that they feel like it's too academic or too out of reach or too scholastic, and it's not really about that. It's about like how you feel reading. Like, do you enjoy it? Are you learning something? Is it widening your view? Like, that's what it's about. It's not so much like I'm going to test you on like what symbols you found in chapter 5.
Crazy to think someone would think that.
But I think like that's what we're taught in school, right? Like
Wow.
book reports, like
Wow.
we are the
Oh my
essays that we have to write.
God.
We don't ever write about like how this book made us feel. We
Oh
had to read
my.
The Sun Also Rises and talk about the themes and the symbols. And I'm not saying that's not important, because it's extremely interesting and it's so important in life and in movies and media. Like, so that is important, but I feel like it doesn't ever tap into like, how does this make us feel? How does this relate to the current world around us?
Wow. Wow, that's so real. I feel like that also, yeah, that indicates a lot of people who don't read, because that is what they associate books with. Like, I feel like I'm interacting with people and they're like, yeah, I don't read. I don't read. But it's like their opinion of books is so, I'm like, I'm not reading for academic reasons. I'm reading to feel something. Like,
No, and I always like tell people, I'm like, you just haven't found the a book that speaks to you. And I think that's like, I used to be a like such a reader, like I don't know, like as a kid and into my early teens. And then once I hit high school, I think that's where my love of reading stopped, because I was forced to read these books that were written by what old white people, and like I felt like it had nothing to do with me. Whereas like when I was younger, I was picking books based on like girlhood and love, and Mary Kate and Ashley are spies, and like things like I wanted to be, or like I was like interested in like Harry Potter, and like I loved the themes of good and evil in there. Like
mm,
I wanted to be like Hermione. I wanted to be like brave and smart and sharp and witty. Like I was able to like pick my own books, and then in high school you're told to read these books and you have to write about them, and then they become uninteresting. And I feel like that's the same with college. And I would say like it was like around 2015, 2016 when I started doing these book exchanges that I began reading. Like I don't even know how I was like introduced to the books that I think maybe my cousin Crystal, to be honest. Like I began reading books by people of color, by contemporary books by women. Like, and that's where I was like, oh, books. Yeah, this is why I used to like reading.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We haven't really talked about this,
No,
but it's
never.
so real. Because the same thing happened to me. I was such an avid reader as a child. Loved reading. Got books as my presents, like all throughout for all my birthdays, and I loved that.
Like I loved sitting in Barnes and Nobles in the aisle and like
Truly,
picking
to this
out
day.
3 books, sitting and like reading a few pages of each, and like, "Ugh, which one do I pick? Which one is my uncle going to buy me?"
Yeah, truly the
Yeah.
uncle buying. But yeah, then my love for reading got destroyed in high school. Literally destroyed.
Because and like, this is the thing, we're taught what books are worthy. And I think that's what
Whoa.
I have a problem with a lot of like book clubs, and like, no shade to like, I think, encouraging reading is a net positive, but I still feel like what I'm seeing in book clubs, whether just, ones that I find online or ones started by celebrities, like it feels really white centered still to me. And I think I don't know, I think that's like why instead of like joining someone else's thing, like I think I wanted to create my own thing because I felt like maybe we needed, or I needed, to share a different type of book and show that these books and these stories are worthy of consuming and diving into as well.
So I want to go back to the idea of having a dream or a desire for something, and the size in which you are comfortable imagining that dream comes true. Okay, like I want to go back. We had a really interesting conversation like a few weeks ago where I was telling you about a friend that I have who I was like, I feel like it's so rare to meet people who have as an artist who has a big dream for their artist career. Like I feel like it's hard to find someone who like is purely talented, who's purely in it for like the art and what they want, but they also want to like boom, they want to explode, they want to really have their art reach as many people as possible. And this expands beyond art too, but I feel like as an artist you want to have a pure connection with what you're doing. So I don't know, it just feels like it's rarer to find that someone who wants to exist in both spheres. And I was telling you about that and you were like, oh, well, I might be taking your words wrong, but you said something like, oh, I don't dream. Well, maybe they're not dreaming big because they know for like a big dream to happen, it has to be like, it loses its message or it won't be as potent because it's like for the masses.
Right, like something has to be sacrificed.
Something has to be sacrificed. And it kind of set off like a realization in my head where I'm like, oh, that's so crazy. Like because I am someone who is an artist and who has very large dreams, but doesn't want to sacrifice any amount of potency. But I realized like, oh, well, is that why? Is that why so many people don't dream so big about what they want? And then I started thinking about Scene and how you're always so grounded with it. You know what I mean? Like I feel like you're never wanting it to like, you're not like, oh my God, let's make this as big as it can possibly be. You're like, no, I want to maintain what's happening. Like, I don't want to lose my connection to it. I don't want to lose the way I feel after I go to these events. You're always checking in with yourself. You want to make sure other people are getting something out of this, like that's true and rich and not imitable or like, just like that's a rare, good feeling. And I just realized I was like, oh, what an interesting topic of do we minimize our dreams because we don't want them, you know what I mean, minimize the size of them.
I almost think I would say it's more common to dream big, but I think some of the things don't take off because they're not for the masses. Does that make sense? Like I feel like I often don't talk to people who minimize things like I do. I don't know why I do that. Like I could be a problem, but like I actually find more often that I talk to people who dream big and who want big things. But when I hear that, I automatically think, well, like what will be sacrificed? Because I think what I see for the masses, there's a difference. There's a difference to something that has mass appeal and something that maybe doesn't have as much eyeballs or reach or visibility. I don't know. And you and I like talked about different examples of that, but I think even the examples that you shared were like, they're obviously like have found such commercial success, but they're not big by any means. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't know. So I think maybe some people dream small, but I actually think a lot of people dream big, but maybe they're wondering why they haven't hit big. And I think maybe it's because they're not willing to lose certain things. I don't know.
Wow.
This is just us talking. Like I've never really talked about this with anyone else before, like have thought about it too deep. But like I think intuitively, I like to keep things small, whether it's my with everything. Like I mean, I worked for like a big global beauty brand at one point, and I realized I fucking hated it because I wasn't heard there, and there were so many things that we needed to hit. And so but myself, like I've realized that I like working with small brands, or like brands that I have an impact with, where like my ideas don't have a lot of red tape and don't get diluted. And like, and I think that's just like kind of like what I've seen just with things I've touched. Like I think I'm like, oh, I can't reach as many people as impactfully as I can when it's a smaller group. But that's just like, I don't know. Like I don't know if that's like because I'm not dreaming big enough, or maybe I just like don't have those desires. I don't really know what it is, but I think those are my observations, like from, I don't know, like I just like see the people, and I think I exist in a very specific industry, right? Social media. It's like, and I see the people who have mass appeal, who make the dollars, and it's different than someone who isn't doing that. And I find, me personally, I'm much more interested in the person who isn't doing that.
That's interesting. I think it also, looping this back into scene and what I see in the people. Well, first, seeing you have the desire and like it light you up, and then now seeing complete strangers be touched by this thing that you felt. It's been teaching me about the power of the things that we feel. And when you feel something so strongly, it lights some sector off in other people. So maybe what they're feeling at these scene events aren't exactly what you're feeling, but because you're feeling something, it lights up something in someone else. But I feel like I'm also witnessing something happen. Like I feel like this is a thing that can like touch a lot of people. So I'm almost wondering, maybe with these more pure and potent ideas that aren't like, oh, I want to make it so big so it hits everyone, when you actually do care about the individual on an individual level and making the individual feel something, I kind of feel like the world is shifting to a place, I might be a little idealistic here, where that's actually the new mass. Like touching people in the most specific way possible. Like the niche.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's hard to do it with Scene Library because it's not scalable in that way. You know what I mean? Where it's like with a song, you can hit more people, or a movie. But like, so like, I think in that sense, I could see it. But it's like, I think with Scene Library, like, and I think especially men love to be like, oh, so how are you going to expand? But it's just like, I can't. Like, and it won't. Like, what? I'm gonna have like some machine wrap the books. My mom's not gonna wrap
Oh
them anymore.
God.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
someone's like, "Oh,
Whoa.
you could turn your writing into a font, your handwriting." I'm like, but the whole
Whoa.
thing is like, I handwrite it with my husband in our house, and like that's like an activity that we do. Like it just, and I think that's like for like with Scene Library specifically. Obviously, this doesn't apply to like all methods of other things, but I think for myself, I know Scene Library has to remain small for it to be what it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not a book club. It's not like I can have 500 people buy a book and then we all like talk about it on Slack. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what that looks like, right? Like, I don't know. I don't know. It just like, I don't think it'll be mass. Like, I would love to bring it to new cities, right? Like, but even then, there's like a max that it could hit because I can only wrap so many books. I can only be in so many places. Like, but I think like that's fine. But Scene Library isn't a song. It isn't a piece of writing. So it's like in that way, like it's not something that can be like spread and shared in that way. So yeah, I don't know. So it's like kind of two different, like when we're talking about scene, I just think like there's just no question. It's small forever.
Oh,
And that's
I
fine.
love that. I love
Yeah,
that though,
okay.
but I also feel like, oh, Small Forever is so beautiful. Well, I think that's why I don't know. It's reminding me of like your journey of getting to this point. You you don't really have like a certain idea of what you're going towards. You're in the moment and you're seeing what feels good and what feels natural, and people nudge you in certain ways, or you feel like, oh, maybe I'll try this. maybe that is what the growth will be like. This kind of, because I'm just seeing, I'm like, there is a need. Like, I'm seeing people at these events, I'm like, there is a need. Like, this is fulfilling some deep need in people. And I feel like more people need to feel it. But I do agree with you of like, you don't want to lose your touch there.
Yeah, and I think like maybe like the way it spreads isn't specifically Scene Library, but like maybe I'm hoping like that the people who interact with Scene Library will go back into their own lives and think about like, oh, I really liked how Scene Library made me feel. What else makes me feel this way? And they do that thing, and then they share that with other people. Like, so it's like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if that sounds like super like woo woo and like fairyland, but like I don't know, I think like that's like I don't know, I think it's because I think the people I meet are so kind and compassionate and like intentional, and like I feel like they how they move in their own circles is probably super like they're touching people too. Yeah, I think there is like that kind of like that desire and that feeling to be like seen and understood, and I think like Scene Library gives that, but I hope that people like search for that in other ways too. And like that doesn't mean Scene Library has to be everywhere, but if it like sparks something in that person, like great, and then hopefully they do their own thing with that.
I love that.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think it goes back to another thing we were saying of like sometimes it feels though like the world is so wrong. Like it just feels like things are so wrong. But then when you go in this like very micro level and look at your life and look at the experiences you're having and look at the things you're doing and what people, how you connect with people, it's like that's how things change. Truly, that's how things change. Like I think it's rare that some mass thing, I don't know, I just think like I think that's really beautiful. What is felt through Scene is perhaps like beyond it. It's really like a feeling you carry and the way you're like moving through the world, which is also what I feel about it as an entity. Like I don't really even see it as just book gatherings and pop-ups and volunteering. I see it as like a way of moving and being and like engaging with not only yourself but like other people in the world and even beliefs you have of yourself.
Yeah, and I think like like I feel like we've gone past like the books itself, and like I think to go back to the books, and I do hope like the books like solidify or like that message, right, that you're getting from these book gatherings. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's just like I'm thinking about like I read one book and it was like at the right time, and it's Severance by Ling Ma, and it's a dystopian fiction, and it questions how we live our lives, and it questions how much we put into our work and our jobs and productivity. And that book switched something in my brain, and that's actually I think like what made me realize I wanted to do something, and that something was Scene Library. So like like I don't know, it's just like I'm hoping also like with the books, and it's not going to be every book, but they are learning something from a book they found at Scene Library that will like help them move in a world in which like they want to move, like gives them permission. Yeah. So like just so like because I feel like we're like going in like this is how people feel at Scene Library, and I'm like obviously I love that, but it's like to tie back into like the bread and butter, the physical bread and butter of Scene Library, it's the books, and like that's also like I hope it's like twofold. Like the experience at Scene Library and the message they receive from the books that they get at Scene Library give them permission to move this way in the world.
So beautiful, and I love it. I want to connect this to reading a book and you personally, when you get a book, what experience are you looking to have? Like what would be like, this is what I want to feel in a book. Like not specific like plot, but like how do you want to feel when you read a book?
I like to feel like I'm learning something, not in a like I also like to feel like I'm learning something. Like I just read Swimming in the Dark, and it's about 1980s Poland, and I'm learning so much about like what happened in that era And that's really interesting. And I think that's like obviously very beneficial just to know. But I almost like, it's like maybe like, I don't know. I think like tapping back into those feelings of like maybe unrequited love or not feeling good enough. I'm reading Parable of the Sower right now, and it's a very dark book, but like it's like I guess it's like what I want from a book is like how much can I underline it because I'm so excited about it. I don't know, like so with Parable of the Sower, like it's a dystopian fiction and the main character is like talking to her dad and she's like alarmed by the world around them. Haha, same. But he's basically like telling her like don't like I I should probably just grab the book. But he basically tells her like don't sound the alarms, just teach. Like teach people how to do something instead of telling them what's going to happen.
Wow.
Because if that doesn't happen, they're just not going to take you seriously and they're not going to react in the way that they should because you're the boy who cried wolf essentially. But if you teach them something, when that time comes, they will have the tools to do something. And like to me, I thought that was like, oh, that's so beautiful. And like so that's I guess like what I want to find in a book, like something that like teaches me something, even though that maybe it was just like a simple dialogue between daughter and father, but like I took something away from that and it actually like I hope informs how I move through the world or interact with people or yeah, I don't know. So that's like I feel like that's what I'm looking for in a book.
Wow. Wow. Okay, well, to kind of steer the conversation to more of an end note, I want to talk about what you're personally going through right now. Got a little baby bump. Got a little traveler that's going to join us soon. I just want to talk about how you're feeling right now, like this is such a special moment in your life and maybe you'll look back and listen to this and be like, "Oh wow, I was this many months pregnant at this point." But I don't know, how are you feeling about everything right now?
It's so funny because like obviously we've had like this like whole conversation and I'm like maybe this is just how I am, but like I'm trying not to think about it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, I know that, okay. I mean, I guess this is how I operate now that like we've like talked, had like gone through like career and seen library and like now this, I'm trying not to have any expectations. Like I feel like I get so many questions. Are you going to be like this? Are you going to do this? Are you going to have a C-section? Are you going to have a natural birth? Are you going to do epidural? Like I'm like, I don't know because I don't know what I'll need in that moment.
Wow.
I don't know. And I think like just like my friend, she like makes fun of me. She's like, you're so weird about pregnancy. Like you're so awkward. I'm like, I am. She's like, yeah, like, I feel like other moms, like you talk to them and they can't wait to talk. Like they're so excited. And I told her, I'm like, it's not that I'm excited. It's just like I'm equal parts like happy, but I'm equal parts like nervous and scared. And so I'm almost like at net neutral. And it's like, this is like what it is. And like, and it is like it's what it is. Like I'm just trying not to make it anything else than like I am housing a thing and it's growing and I hope it grows healthily and happily, but like I don't know, it's something I can't control, like where it's like with other aspects in life like you do have a sense of control, and I think this is like one of the things in my life that I've encountered that I have no control over, and it's really hard for me, which is really, I guess, probably a big reason why it took me a while to decide if I even wanted to do this to begin with. Like I said, I don't like surprises. I don't like the unknown. So it's just like, yeah. So I don't know. Like I'm for right now, I'm very happy. I feel very fortunate, but I also know that I can't control the outcome, whether it's, yeah, how my birth is going to go, how the rest of my pregnancy is going to go. Yeah, I don't know. So I'm trying not to I'm taking it day by day. I take it day by day. Like, you know, like, I don't know if you know, but like every week it's like they tell you the size of a fruit it is, right?
Wow.
Like, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, my husband, he was like, oh, next week it's going to be this fruit. I'm like, do not tell me next week's fruit. Let's just be happy with this fruit. So that's kind of like where I've been operating. Like, I'm just taking it by this fruit. Like, it's this fruit right now, and I'm happy it's this fruit, and I'm going to nurture this fruit. And once I get to the next phase, I'll do my best to live in that. I don't know. I don't know if that's like what I don't know if this is like the type of conversation you're wondering.
No,
I really am so awkward speaking about it because I don't. I think like there's like an idea. I feel like there's like a depiction of like what motherhood and being pregnant is like, and you see it on movie. Oh, I feel like movies actually poke fun at it a lot more now. But I think like in terms of the messaging I got from like elders and my mom and aunts and even peers, they're like, just do it. It's so natural. It's like it's what women have been doing for years, and it's so simplistic. But I don't see it like that at all. Or like there's just like general broad brushes of statements, and they're like, it's the best thing that will happen to you. The best thing that will happen to me. Like, how can you be so sure? You know, like, and I just like don't think that about anything. Like, I love my husband. Do I think he's the best thing that's ever, like, he's one of, but you know what I mean? But like, I don't know. Like, I just don't like really think of things in that way, like that they're all fulfilling and all encompassing. And I never want to be that, or I never want to like give myself to something like that entirely because I'm pulled in so many different directions, if that makes sense. But my friend Rosa Park, who is the owner of Francis Gallery in Los Angeles, but the one in Bath also, she actually said something that was like, I think made me like it like clicked. It made something click in me. She said, you know, I love my son, but I wouldn't say my life is better because of him. Like, she's like, I think my life would have been just as good if I didn't have children. It's just different. And it's just like you have to ask yourself, do you want to experience that difference?
wow.
And that's something I can wrap my head around because I don't want to have an expectation that this is going to be this best thing that's going to ever happen to me. And like maybe I don't feel that way, and then I'll feel like shit and I'll feel like a bad mother and I feel like I'm doing something wrong. But I'm like, you know what I can do is choose a different experience. And if it happens to be the best thing that ever happens to me, great. But also like if it's not, that's okay too. And I know this sounds like maybe super negative compared to maybe like the things that we're
No.
told, but I guess like that's what I don't want to have like, I don't want to put so much pressure on this like little being that has had no say on
Oh,
being born into
wow.
this world. I don't want them to have that pressure. And I also don't want to put that pressure on me and my husband for like making the right or wrong decision. It's more like, okay, this is a choice we made and we're going to do our best with this choice that we made.
I love it. No, that's crazy that you think that it might sound super negative because I actually think this sounds the most real and also the most actually in touch with what's happening. Like you're very present. And I think with something like motherhood and having a baby, even before you decide to have a baby, it's something that's like an entity outside of you that people are wanting you to do, or like it's an experience that you're gonna have. I don't know. It's so like outside of you. There's so many ideas around it and feelings. And I love that you're just stripping it down to like your base moment today, here and now of like, this is how I feel. And even in like your decision to have a child, because if we're okay to talk about this,
Yeah, absolutely.
you didn't know if you wanted to have a child. It was all a very organic decision that you and Ben came to together. And I think that to me, as someone who's like, I don't know what that looks like for me, like, I'm so happy that you're my friend. And I haven't really had a super close friend have a child yet. You know, I've had like family members and like friends from college, and it's weird to think you're a friend from college, but I don't consider you that. But to have someone so close to me who is going on this journey, but it's not like the song and dance motherhood that you see, you know, and people who are so excited, or people who are just making it a whole fanfare, you know, which they can, you know, it's an exciting thing, whatever. But you're just you. Like, even walking into dancing, I was like, you're just you. And it's just a good reminder that, like, I just like what you said about putting too much expectation on the baby. I think a lot of people put too much.
Yeah, and I think that's what I get scared of, like all the fanfare. Like, I don't know, just like even like thinking like, oh, I can't wait to one day have a mini me. It's like you don't know if you're gonna have a mini me.
Wow, yeah.
They could be completely different to you, and you're gonna have to be okay with that. And not just okay with that, you're gonna have to love that. And it's just, yeah. And I think like that's, it's like I'm not saying like that sounds extremely hard to like maybe love something that you're not familiar with, right? Like, but you have to learn to. So it's just like I think like it feels too big to like put it into a small box of something I'm just excited about. Like, because it's so much more complex to me than that. Like, there's excitement, but it's also like I have worries, or like there are things I'm looking forward to, but there are also things I'm like really not looking forward to. Like, yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's like the thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I hope I hope everything goes well. I hope things happen, in a healthy, happy way, and like, yeah, just take it day by day. I really, yeah, and I think that's like kind of the approach that we took with just even deciding to do this, is like we're like it wasn't like, oh, we've been married for 2 years, I think it's time. It's like we had ongoing conversations for the past 7 years, and like only now did it feel kind of right. So yeah, I don't know.
I think you really embracing this whole really treating this like an experience that you were going into with your husband, and allowing yourself to not have it exist, allowing it to be completely complex. I think it's just a testament to like who you are as a person, why I love being friends with you and being around you. And like, you are just someone who is very grounded and in touch with like the complex depths of like living, but like in a really like grounded way. So like your approach to pregnancy feels like it just makes total sense. Actually, it really does.
I'm glad. And it's so funny. Like, I'm so glad you think I'm grounded, because I feel like my parents would not describe me as that way.
Or you're in the present.
Yeah.
Like, you don't like yank yourself
No,
in the
yeah.
future or the past. Like, you're in the present.
Totally. And I think that's just, and I like when I tell people that, I'm like, it's neutral and I'm not too excited. Like I'm like, but I feel that way about everything. Like, that's how I felt about like travels, like on a big trip. I'm not excited because I know I have to pack for it. So it's like, but I'm really happy when I'm there. Or like if I'm starting a new job and a new client, they're like, oh my God, it's so exciting. Like, are you so happy? I'm like, not yet, because I don't know how it's going to be, but like I'm looking forward to seeing, like, and I think that's what I think I've realized in this thing. I'm like, am I a monster? Is there something wrong with me? But I think I'm like, no, that's how I've always been. Even like meeting Ben, and like people like, oh, you have a boyfriend, or like, I'm like, I mean, we're dating. We'll see. Like, you know what I mean? I think that's what I've realized, that I am like that person that takes it day by day. And I try not to have like any outlandish expectations. And I just like want to be, I guess, like, yeah, present in what it is, and also see the positives and the joys in that present iteration, and be grateful for that too, and not always looking ahead, because I think it's so easy to do that.
Because it's also in the present that you can ask yourself how you're feeling. Like, you can actually access the truths about yourself, which I think connects back to scene and your work in social media and just the way you live your life. Like, being in the present allows you to understand how you feel and the way you want to like design your future, or what you actually want to walk towards. So, I mean, hearing all this now, I'm like, oh, it makes so much sense that like your life has built like this, and why scene is the way it is, and why everything is such a natural growth, because you like live and you build in the present.
I try to. Yeah. I like that visual though. Yeah, because sometimes I do wonder, I'm like, do I think too small? But I think I just like to look at something like at its moments, like, okay, what's the next step?
Which is how a house gets built, you
Yeah.
know? You
Yeah.
can't be like, I'm gonna build a mansion and start like, what? Like, no, you have to like start.
Just put a brick down.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to start with the brick. Well, thank you, Jordan, for being the first guest. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation and found some gems. To unlock a bonus episode featuring what Jordan thinks about seeing library doppelgangers, celebrity book clubs, and why we both have been super underwhelmed by movies lately, join Electric Blue's paid Substack to listen. Just go to haleta.substack.com, spelled Halleta. You can also find it in the podcast bio. Okay, I love you all and talk so soon.